Hi everyone. In this video, we're going to learn about data validation. Data validation is the process of setting up rules for entering data. Now we're going to cover three things: settings, input messages, and error alerts. I've opened up the Learning Files workbook and I'm on the toy inventory worksheet. So the first thing you need to do when you want to set up a data validation rule is to select the data that you want to apply the rule to. So I'm going to create a rule that says that in my quantity and stock column, column D, I can only enter whole numbers between 0 and 5,000. So I'm going to select D3 through D52 because that's where I want to apply my rule. I'm going to click on the Data tab, and I'm looking in the Data Tools group. I have a Data Validation drop arrow. I'm going to click that and choose Data Validation. That opens up my Data Validation window, and I'm on the Settings tab. This is where I build my rule. I'm going to click this Allow drop arrow and select the type of rule I'd like to build. I said that I wanted to only be able to enter whole numbers between 0 and 5,000. I enter all my information, click OK. Now, if I try to enter something that doesn't fall within that rule, I get this error alert that tells me that the data I'm trying to enter doesn't match the data validation restrictions for this cell. So I have to retry and put in something that does. Now, I think it's best to make your data validation rule before you start entering data, because if we look through this data in column D, I can see there are some entries that don't match my rule. Okay, like this one, they're all above 5,000. Okay, but the data was entered before I built my rule. In this instance, you might want to circle your invalid data. So you've entered your data, then you built your rule, and you want to check to see if any of the data that's been entered violates the rule. So here's how you do it. Highlight the data that you want to check. And in your data validation menu, choose Circle Invalid Data. So that circles anything that didn't follow my rule. I can clear those circles by clicking the data validation drop arrow and choosing clear validation circles. Okay, now that I have a rule set, I can create an input message so that people entering data into this range will know what my rules are. So let's go to data validation. And let's click on the input message tab. I'm not going to add a title because I think titles are just too busy. I like to just add input messages. So I'm going to make my message say only enter numbers between 0 and 5,000. I'll hit OK. So now when somebody clicks on any of the cells in that range, they get that little tag that tells them what to do, that little input message. Okay, I can also modify my error alert. Let me select that same range again. I'm going to go to data validation and click on my error alert. So I have three types of error alerts. I have a stop, which is the default, and I can make my own error message. Okay, let's say I'm going to say only enter numbers between 0 and 5,000. I'll put an exclamation this time. So now when somebody violates my rule, they get my customized error alert. Okay, let me go back to error alerts. Now that's the stop. The stop doesn't let you enter the data unless it meets the rule, which makes sense. You can also have a warning, okay, which changes it up. Okay, now I can enter invalid data, and it gives me the choice to continue with the invalid data or not. So I could just put yes and enter it. Okay, that's what a warning does. And then the last option, I don't use very much because I don't think it's very useful. It is the information. Okay, you can customize your message. And then if you violate the rule, you get information, but you can click OK and enter it anyway. So in my opinion, I think the stop error message is most appropriate because it actually prevents people from entering data that you don't want. So I'm going to leave it at stop. Okay, there's another type of data validation I want to show you. It's creating a drop list. So let's say for shipping method, I only want people to be able to enter air, road, sea, or rail. I'm going to select this range because that's what I want to apply my data validation to. I'm going to go build my rule. So I'm going to get data validation, and this time I'm building a rule. So I go to my settings tab. I want to make a list. Now in the source window, you can type what you want to see in your list, or if you've already got it entered into your spreadsheet, you can select. So I want air, road, sea, and rail. I'm going to click OK. Now, if I click on any cell in that range, I can only choose air, road, sea, or rail. If I try to type something else in, like car, I get the error message. Okay, let's say I want to create a data validation list for items I type in. Okay, let's say here in G3 through G10, I'm just going to make a random list of colors. Okay, I select the range I want to apply the data validation to. I go to data validation, settings, I'm going to choose a list, and I want to type my own stuff in. So let's say I want a list of colors. I'm going to do red, comma, space, green, comma, space, blue, comma, space, pink. So it's important that you put the comma space between each item in your list. And the last item doesn't have a comma space. You just end with it and click OK. Now, if I click here, I've got my list. Now, let's say I've got data validation rules applied that I want to get rid of. Okay, because this list of colors doesn't make sense for my spreadsheet. So I'm going to highlight the range where I have that rule applied to. I'm going to go to data validation, and clear my rules, clear all. And hit OK. And now it's gone. Okay, that was data validation.